Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle podcast. My name is Iain Mackay. I'm hosting tonight in a very, very jolly mood because I am literally just out of the car, back from watching Newcastle beat Chelsea 2-0. And have we got one foot in the Champions League already? Who knows? We don't want to count on any chickens. I have two people with me tonight who aren't going to count any chickens, probably going to be spending the time looking for some sort of soothing sunblock because they both caught the sun today. First of all, catching the sun in the same place that I was at was Ms. Nicola Pringle Adams. How are you, Nicola? And you've got a long way home.
I did. Record time this weekend though. We got up in 2.5 hours. We got back in 3. That's
Well
record
done.
driving. Yeah.
I know.
I'm good.
I know.
Or dangerous driving.
Or dangerous driving. Yeah, do not
Dangerous
speed. No,
driving,
I'm joking. I'm not joking. The roads were clear. So yeah, I am in a good mood. But I have caught the sun on
Good
my face. I
stuff.
look like an absolute tomato.
And Michael, who you weren't at the match, Michael, were you? You were watching it and listening
No.
to the commentary to know what the public version of that game was. How did you manage to get sunburned and watch the game at the same time? Or was it afterwards?
Outdoor tellies. So what I had the luxury of is basically having the sun on my forehead, but not really on the rest of my body. So my forehead is now just a red block, and the rest of me is as pale as what it normally is. So I'm going to turn up to work tomorrow and look horrendous, like a Santander logo, but we'll see.
Well, I was thinking more like later on in the shower, Michael, you'd be standing there looking like a Swan Vesta, which is a safety
Anyone
match
wants
for
to
all
hear
of our...
about me in the shower? Let's quickly move on.
Yes. Let's move on.
Let's move it.
Part one of today's podcast. Some rather surprising changes to the team news. I was kind of hoping that they were going to sneak Joe Linton in there because he'd been to Barcelona and he got an injection, and that would have been a surprise. But I was trebly surprised
Mm-hmm.
when I saw what team Eddie had picked to play. We'd gone 5 at the back. We somehow found a combination that allowed Barnes, Gordon, and Murphy to start. That wasn't the one that Kevin suggested a few days ago. What do you think of that lineup? I'll come to you first, Michael, because I always come to Nicola first. Not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, it's one of those that going into the game, I thought it could be one of two things. And I thought we were going to go a proper old-fashioned 4-4-2 when I first saw it, because I thought, Barnes and Murphy as left midfielders, and then Gordon just sitting off Isaac. And then I thought, hang on, that puts Dan Burn at left back. Nah, he's not doing that. What else could it be? And then I realised Botman's back. It's the 3 at the back, which he's done so many times just with Botman this season. We don't seem to play a 5 at the back any other time that when Sven Botman's in, but he does so well in it. But yeah, Botman being in, fantastic. I always love to see Sven back. And then, yeah, Murphy, Barnes, Gordon, Isaac all played together for the first time, and it only took 2 minutes to score, so it started off well at least. But
It
we'll
did
get
start
to
off well. Nicola, were you surprised by the team lineup?
Yeah, I must admit, I stared at the team sheet for it must have been about 15, 20 minutes before the game had started, thinking, I don't understand how we're lining up. I couldn't work out if it was like what Michael said, a 4-4-2, a 3-4-2-1. I was like, I don't understand what's going on. But yeah, I was happy to see Sven Botman back because we all know how
Of
much I
course.
love him. Yeah, and it was nice to see him find a way to play Barnes, Gordon, Murphy all at the same time. And yeah, I thought we started well and we started strong and it worked, and we obviously started electric at least. So yeah, so I thought the lineup, when I first seen the team sheet, I was a bit like, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Once the game started, I could sort of see where Eddie was going with it, and it looked good.
We did. I thought we started really, really well. I mean, obviously we scored after 2 minutes, which is a fabulous start, but we didn't stop after that. I thought we went for them, and I thought it was working quite well. Probably first half hour was definitely ours, but then the Chelsea midfield was starting to have a lot of possession, and it was kind of even. But the game changed with Nicholas Jackson's forearm smash to the lovely Sven's face, and the red card, which was amazed, sitting 100 yards up in row X, level 7. I could see that was a red card straight away. I'm not sure why it took VAR to tell the referee, but tell me how you saw it, Nicola, from where you were sitting.
Well, obviously, where I was sitting, obviously, did that happen at the start of the second half, or was it end of the? No, it must have been towards the
Well,
end of the first
about
half, wasn't it?
35 minutes.
Yeah. So obviously, it happened. It was near the halfway line. So I've got to be honest, I was actually looking at where the ball was. I actually hadn't seen Sven go down. So I was thinking to myself, do not tell me that he's gone down with a sore knee. Do not tell me he's gone down with a sore knee. Do not tell me he's gone down with a sore knee, because I started panicking, because I thought, I've just defended him on this podcast last week when Michael was asking about, I think we were playing a game of keep or sell. And then I seen the referee go over to the monitor, and I thought, oh, there's obviously been a challenge on him. And then obviously I seen him holding his face. I didn't actually see the challenge until they replayed it on the screen, on the left hand side. I don't understand why it took so long. It was a red card all day, all day, all day.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until obviously the people around me were making so much noise that I thought, okay, no, something's definitely going on here. So yeah, that's the only thing with VAR. It annoys me a little bit, because it's clear as day that was a red. Don't know why it takes so long.
What did it look like on the big screen, Michael, when you were watching it? Was it obvious from general play, or did you have to go and watch the VAR replays to see what had happened?
Yeah, I think it's one of those, and I'm going to refer to the Villa Bournemouth game yesterday as well, where Tyrone Mings does a very similar thing. Alex Scott, unfortunately, he's now got a broken nose. He's out for the rest of the season. Very similar thing with Jackson and Botman, but the reason Mings didn't get the red card and why Jackson has, it's all about intent. And from what I saw, it didn't look like there was intent there straight away. It just looked like it was one of those normal challenges until you see the ball's going overhead. Jackson's not even looking at the ball. He's looking directly at Sven Botman, and he's loading that elbow up like he's a wrestler. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna whack him with this," and he just ends up just hitting him flush with the forearm and a little bit of the elbow as well. And it's that look at Sven Botman, which is about 2-3 seconds of a look, just staring straight at him, which is why the red was given. I think if Jackson's not staring at Botman beforehand, it doesn't get given by VAR, but it's that intent that
Yeah.
was the reason there. And I didn't see that at first. I only noticed it on VAR, so I can see why it took so long.
Well, I think I understand Jackson's frustration, by the way, because that back three was really performing very, very well, cutting everything out,
Yeah,
certainly heading everything clear that came through. And Jackson, as their sort of point on their arrow, was the man who was being knocked to the ground and beaten to headers for all of that first half hour. No excuse
yeah,
for retaliating or responding in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so 1-up, then down to 10 men, us in the ascendancy 10 minutes before half time. I was thinking, right, this is where my prediction that we strolled to another slaughtering of a team at St James's Park comes true, but I couldn't have been more wrong, because we seemed to slow to walking pace to finish that first half. And then after the half-time break, Maresca made one or two tweaks. He took Madueke on and brought Reece James on. I think he switched Cole Palmer to play as a false nine up
yeah.
against our three centre halves.
Yep.
Chelsea were really good in the second half. I was very impressed with them. You have a slightly different take on that, Michael. You thought Newcastle were just really bad in the second
Yeah,
half. But was it not a little bit of both? I didn't think we were awful. I just thought
yeah.
that I thought we did negate our spare man by playing three at the back when they didn't have a centre forward on the pitch.
Yeah, I think the fact that Lewis Miley came on 55 minutes tells you how poor we were in the first 10 minutes. Eddie Howe doesn't like making changes that early until he can see that there's something wrong. I think the fact that Botman went off at 55, it was probably planned for 60, 65. But Howe's gone, look, we kind of need it. And to be honest, when Miley came on, he didn't really do too much himself. But young kid, hasn't had much time on the pitch. Completely accept why that is. But yeah, I just thought, I'm going to sound really harsh here, but it was almost as if during that second half we were playing with 9 men with Alexander Isak and Harvey Barnes, because movement from both of them was poor. And then every time Barnes got the ball, his touch was so bad. I thought Shola Amiobi was on the wing again. It was absolutely ridiculous. And to be honest, I understand that playing against 10 men is almost harder than playing against 11. But the way Chelsea played is they had Neto on their right-hand side. The spare man was on their left. We had Barnes, Miley, and then Murphy to begin with. Obviously, it changed in this with the later changes. Originally, for that period, and you think, oh, those three on the against Cucurella, Fernandez, oh, we're going to do so well. They're going to overwhelm them. We're going to get balls into the box. We're going to do brilliant. But it was just Cucurella looked really comfortable, and he's not a great defender either. So you're sitting there and going, yeah, Chelsea might have been good. They might have been okay, but I genuinely think any other team puts them to the sword, and we just weren't really on it today, and that's fine, because at the end of the day, the result's all that mattered. Everything else has gone in our favour. So just like Brighton, if the result is fine, at this point, that's all that matters.
Good. Well, Michael just
Positive.
finished the podcast there in 3 minutes, but that's what I was going to say was I'm going to pause. I know I didn't come to you then, Nicola, but I promise I'll come back to you at the start of part 2.
My
I'm going
opinion
to
doesn't
play
matter.
the Bioniq advert, and we can delve a little bit into more individual performances at the end of the second half in part 2.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
I listened to that beforehand, so I knew it had that killer 3-second break in the middle of the advert, so I didn't speak in the middle of it this time. So, let's go back to half-time. We've eased off, we've took our foot off the gas, but we're comfortable. We're playing 10 men, and everything's rosy. Reece James comes on from Madueke. Cole Palmer goes to a false 9 position. And Chelsea are transformed. Could you see what had happened there, Nicola? Could you see what the problem was and why it was so different?
I actually said to my cousin, who I came up with, that when Nicholas Jackson got his red card, and obviously it's great, obviously they're down to 10 men, and Michael just touched on in his point, I actually said to my cousin, sometimes it's harder to play against 10 men than it is with a full squad. And I just think Chelsea, that was just Chelsea in this, particularly in the second half. The first half they were poor. The second half they stepped up a gear and were pressing us, and we panicked. But what didn't help was there was quite a lot of stopping and starting in the second half, and sometimes I find that disrupts a game anyway. So you had, obviously, I think Enzo was having an absolute fit about something, then Cole Palmer was having a fit about something, Tino then went down, which thankfully wasn't a massive injury, and it's a lot of stopping and starting, and that can really disrupt a game, I think, and the rhythm of a game. And I think that's all. Don't get me wrong, we were sloppy at times in the second half. We gave balls away. We were last to our balls. We were just kicking for hope sometimes, but I don't think we were awful. I think just Chelsea stepped up a gear in that second half with the changes that their manager made. And yeah, like I said, I think the rhythm of the game was just disrupted ever so slightly in the second half.
I was terrified, having included Reece James in the disappointing Premier League 11, that he could come on and form an 11-man Chelsea team into a 10-man Chelsea team that starts bossing Newcastle on their home turf.
Yeah.
Because they were doing that in the first 10 minutes, weren't they? And I think, touched on
100%.
that, Michael, the spare man that we had was the 3 at the back without any centre forward to mark, which Eddie spotted very, very quickly and took Sven off and brought Miley on. And Miley took a minute or two to even get to the pace of the game. I did notice him chasing and harrying. Very often the one midfielder behind Alex Isak, who's actually pressing Chelsea in their own half. But yeah, not particularly effective. Not particularly
Yeah.
effective. The good news, though, was that didn't actually equate to very many shots on target. So I think the back line cut a lot of the danger out. I think they played quite well. And Pope made a really good save, low down to his left, proving that
Mhm.
he's not a one-armed bandit anymore. He still can get down on that side. Made a really good save, very low. Um, Michael, why did Chelsea not have more shots on target?
I think Chelsea, when you look at the way Chelsea set up and the way they played the first half with Jackson, they were very much looking to counter attack. They were looking to catch Newcastle on the break. Obviously, the early goal would have disrupted that for them. But then when Jackson goes off, they've got to completely change the way they play. First half, very long ball. Second half, very has to be a bit more intricate. They're playing sort of we've sat players back, which to be honest, I think was a direct move by Eddie Howe because he knew, they've got to break us down. We don't have to do anything, and it worked. But they had to play these intricate passes to just try and get something in. And it wasn't like what we saw sometimes with Newcastle, where, admittedly, Barnes and Murphy would just look at the player standing right in front of them and go, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a shot," and it would just bounce off them and go for a corner or out for a throw in, which I saw too many times today. They actually tried to pass in between the lines. And it worked a couple of times, but the final touch for Chelsea just wasn't really there. They had the two chances with Cucurella and Enzo Fernandez. Both were good saves by Pope. But yeah, they didn't really create all that much. And I think that's just because they just didn't have a striker. You look at it and go, oh, if Alexander Isak's in that team and they have someone to hit, they probably come away with at least a draw from that performance. But they didn't, thankfully.
Thank God.
Isak
Remember
plays for us and it's fine.
one dribble Cole did right down onto the byline, and he put a fantastic ball right along from where we were sitting, right across the middle of the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
Nobody there. Somebody was racing to try and save it from going out for a throw in, and Palmer just came onto the pitch, shrugging his shoulders, going, "Well, if there's nobody there to get a cross in like that, what the hell are we doing?"
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's about all Palmer done
that
all
was
game, by the way.
encouraging. What do you think about the substitutions? I'm wondering if Gordon was actually not match fit for him to come off, because I thought Gordon was far more threatening than Barnes was, and then Barnes switched to his favoured left side and seemed to take a step down from being fairly abysmal. Am I being harsh, Nicola?
I don't think Harvey Barnes had a massive step down because I'm trying to think back to the game now. Michael, take over, quick.
Okay.
While I think.
I didn't think Barnes had a great game. I did think he was quite poor. But what I will say is that out of the two wingers, Barnes was given more time on the ball,
Yeah.
and they did sit off him a little bit more. But I would say he was the more threatening in the final third because he got the ball. He had a number of efforts, a lot of them blocked, unfortunately. And realistically, he should have made it 2-0 early midway through the second half, but just a poor touch. So yeah, he didn't play well. But I think the reason Gordon probably came off is because he spent the entirety of the first 60 minutes just being
On the
hacked
floor.
down by Moises Caicedo, who
Yeah.
Howie didn't get a yellow card in the I think it was around the 20th minute where he just completely stops a counter attack, and then we get a yellow card pretty much 10 minutes later for the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Gordon was probably brought off to preserve him because he had been just hacked down all game, and Barnes wasn't great, unfortunately. But look, he's allowed a bad game, particularly when we win. But yeah, you want to see more from him in the next two games because when it comes to who we might get rid of in the summer,
Yeah.
games like that aren't going to help you.
We've said
Very
it before,
true.
though, haven't we?
Very
Where
true.
we've said like Barnes will have like a stint of real bad form games, and then
Yeah.
he'll just hit a real streak of great games, and it seems to be this kind of roller coaster with him where he hits peak performance, then dips, then hits peak performance, then
Yeah.
dips. So yeah, he's a real tough player sometimes to have an opinion on because I really like him, but then other times like today I get really frustrated with him.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I wouldn't say what I was trying to say was I wouldn't say he slipped off in the second half because I feel like he was the same in the first half. So I feel like he just performed the
I
same.
was just mentioning that once Gordon had gone off, Barnes went over onto his favoured left side and
Mhm.
really didn't do anything. That's where he had that appalling, God, such a heavy touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man with concrete boots or something. his touch to control the ball was actually what sent the ball into Sanchez's arms rather than the shot that he should have had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I probably would have done the same if I was playing.
You and me both, mate.
Yeah, what can we do? The good news is that even though it felt a little bit like, my God, we shouldn't be like this, and we are kind of hanging on. I'm wondering if Eddie didn't think that he could just do like he did at Arsenal away and just sit back and let them try and break us down, knowing that they wouldn't. But fortunately, when Dan Burn converted himself into a left winger for a free kick, he was able to put rather a sneaky little ball back in for Bruno to be able to do his own Anthony Gordon impersonation. And what I thought was curl it into the top corner. You told me there's a horrendous deflection on it, which helps it dip into the far
Yeah.
corner, Michael.
Was there a
I
deflection?
didn't see that.
Yes,
Yeah,
big
we didn't
Yeah,
see
deflection.
it.
I didn't see it.
We we saw the ball heading towards the goal, and then everybody stood up in front of us cheering, assuming it was going in. I mean, I still haven't seen the ball go in. I'm assuming because we won 2-0, that was when it went
Jinx.
in.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, it was fantastic. It was a relief. And the
Yeah.
last 10 minutes with injury time spent singing cheerio, cheerio, cheerio to the Chelsea fans as they left early, and then letting everybody know that we're going up the Premier League again. That was great fun. And
I
we could
do.
all sort of
I
breathe a
do just
little
have
bit
one
of a
thing to
sigh of
mention
relief.
that was hilarious to see on the telly, and I hope I hope it's in the highlights package. I haven't checked, but in the free kick, when Byrne does convert himself to the left back, he's got miles of space, and it takes a while for the free kick to actually happen. And he stood there just shouting, "Effing pass me the ball!" And you can see him so frustrated. And then the ball gets launched over to him, and it's a little bit behind him, so you can see he's frustrated. But then he tries to play the 1-2 with Bruno, and you can see he's running like he's Anthony Gordon trying to get in behind, and it's just brilliant because I genuinely think when he's like agitated and determined, genuinely, there's nothing stopping Dan Burn. He's like a
Agreed.
freight train. But I would have loved to have seen what would have happened if Bruno had gave him the ball back. If it would have been like Leicester in the Cup all those years ago, where he just curls it into the corner. But if you do get the chance, watch the
Watch that.
highlight and just see Dan Burn because he's hilarious. I love
Well,
him.
we could see him. We could see him from right up there, with his arms out, desperate for it, standing on his own. The free kick goes across, and we're all going, "Why are you not knocking it up in the air?" Because it's Dan Burn. He can score a header from the corner of the box, no problem. But yeah, it hit him on his feet. But fortunately, he didn't panic, and
He was
he gave it to
fantastic
Bruno,
today,
who
Dan
did
Burn.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
He was brilliant
I
today,
think
as always. But he was really good today.
I think I'm going to pause and ask
Oh,
Michael
it's
to
me.
read the Zencastr advert, or am I going to ask Nicola to
I'm going
read
to
it?
play
Why
an
don't you
Uno reverse
surprise
card
us?
and get Nicola to do it.
There you go. Fire it away.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it is super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Thank you very much indeed, Nicola. That was great. So, is it tough to pick a man of the match? This is a game
Sandro
where
Tonali.
Really?
you would pick Sandro
Oh,
Tonali as your man of the match.
he
No, I
was
just
good.
like singing his name. He was good. I can't decide between him and one other. No, it is between him and one other.
Let's see.
What about you, You saw it all on the telly, Michael. You've probably seen what
It's
everybody else has said. Who got it? Who got man of the match?
It was the person I'm going to say, Dan Burn.
BDB.
He would
BDB.
he would
Honestly,
have been my
an
choice.
absolute colossus. Yeah, absolute colossus. Whether Chelsea attacked in the air, which they didn't do much because they realised early on they were winning nothing. There's a corner midway through the second half where Sancho stood over it and he's like, I don't want to whip this in. Someone come short. And he ends up having to just whip it in. And I'm pretty sure it's Big Dan Burn that clears it again. But yeah, whether it was at his feet, in the air, and he even contributed on the attacking side. Header in the first half as well. I would have loved it if that went in. An absolute bullet. But yeah, Dan Burn, when it comes to these big games, we said cup final number 1, he was there for us and he ran the show from defence. Cup final number 2, he's done exactly the same. When it comes to big games, all you need is the big man.
Big Dan Burn.
He's a big man. Yeah. Hey, you'll never beat Dan Burn. He's from Blythe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I tell you who I thought played well. And this is just me observing as a football fan. I thought Pedro Neto was excellent. He's given Tino the hardest afternoon I've ever seen Tino have, because Tino's so fast. You know, Salah, forget him. Never get a shot, never get a touch in the box. But I thought Neto, although it was close, I thought Tino did well against him. But I didn't know Neto was as good a player at that. Coming inside, coming back. I thought I thought it was just some flash Harry that whizzed down the wing and nothing else. But I thought he played quite well. But that's a Chelsea player. Hey, forget that. One other player wouldn't have been man of the match, but was solid throughout. Didn't disappoint. Nick Pope. Nobody mentions Nick Pope, and he keeps pulling out saves that keep us in the game. He did it twice in the second half. I know he's the goalie, and Roy Keane would say, "It's a job," but he's got to do his job. And so many goalkeepers don't do the job. Nick Pope does. I thought he did really, really
he did
well. And his
yeah.
distribution, when he's got his ball and he runs out to the edge of the box and he does an overarm throw for his distribution, that could be really slick, really damaging, really accurate. Throw the ball out to Tino a few times, which looked like we're on a break, except Tino would then cut back and give it back to Dan. But yeah. Where does it leave us for our Champions League qualification?
Do I not give my man of the match?
You said you had 2, and one of them was Sandro Tonali. You're going to add more to that?
Yeah, but you didn't ask me to why.
There are 9 other players you could choose. Go on,
Callum
Nicola.
Wilson.
Who's
absolutely
your
not.
man of the match?
It is Sandro. But you didn't ask me why. Is my opinion?
Why is it Sandro Tonali?
No, right. So
It does.
mine were between Sandro Tonali and Dan Burn. But for the sake of Sandro Tonali, I'm going to stick with him. Because he is. First of all, what I want to say is when his goal went in, that atmosphere at St James Park when that goal went in was the loudest I have heard it since I've been there. It was bouncing. I don't know if you agree with that, Iain, but it was absolutely bouncing. And it erupted, and I was like, yeah, I love him. He needs to stay. But more so because I feel like Sandro Tonali, I actually don't remember a single player really that has made such a difference to a Newcastle squad. I just think they're all great, don't get me wrong, but I just feel like he's so key and he had a great game today, I think. Mine.
You mean for the whole season? You're giving him man of the match largely because of his impact over the course of the whole season. That's
that comes on Wednesday.
That's allowed.
Yes, it does.
That's going to be the Player of the Season award.
It's not though.
I don't know if he is. That's going to be a good episode, isn't it? Listen out for that one later on in the week. Now, for me, I'm delighted to report that Liverpool have drawn with Arsenal, which is sufficient for me to be holding my fiver at 80-1 for Newcastle to finish second. That's still in our hands. We beat Arsenal next week and then beat Everton at home. We will finish second. I will be making 400 quid, 405. Might even get you 2 a pint at some stage.
Thanks.
I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy some cans at Tesco and post them.
That works for me. I'm a cheap date.
I'm not.
How close is Champions League qualification? I think we've got 1 foot there.
Yeah.
We
I think we can dive in.
I think one more win and we're done. We beat Arsenal next week. We're in there, top 2's on. I think even if we don't, I think Everton at home. Everton started well under Moyes. They haven't been great since. I know they beat Fulham. But every team that seems to be fighting for 8th, except from Brentford, seems to have gone off the boil completely. So I think Everton, we're going to win quite comfortably. Arsenal, that'll just determine whether we finish 2nd or 3rd. We're there.
Nicola?
One more win, which I'm begging is next weekend, because not only would I love just to beat Arsenal 4-0, 4 times this season, and the fact that Arteta tears are my favourite kind of tears, I would really like to go into the final game of the season having it all wrapped up and ready to go, and just go to that final game and enjoy the final game of the season. So yeah, one more win and we're there.
It would be
Would be
boring though,
fabulous.
wouldn't it?
It wouldn't be
You've
the
got to have something to
Newcastle
play
way.
for.
Yeah, true.
The best final day game of the season was the West Ham one where we had everything to play for. So let's replicate that. But Callum Wilson scores the last minute winner, gets his 50th. There we go.
Whoa.
Sorry, I just gave everyone a heart attack.
No, we're going to beat Arsenal. We're going to beat Arsenal.
Not
And
going to be
then
Arsenal.
we still have to win that last game, because if we beat Arsenal and draw, City can jump above us with 2 wins.
Yes. There we go.
So it's not down to just Arsenal. We've got to win the last 2 games to make sure. Now, after today's results, with which was what Forest, fortunately for us, who I told you had gone off a cliff, they drew at home with Leicester. Not
Yep,
quite as
2-2.
embarrassing as City being held by Southampton yesterday, which was a real bonus.
Jesus.
Arsenal have dropped 2 points at Liverpool. We've beaten Chelsea. I think Villa won, didn't they? But then
Yeah,
that's the other
1-0.
team in the top 6 that have picked up a win. Who's missing out on Champions League? Are we ready to pick it yet?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should say, who's missing out on Champions League apart from Nottingham Forest?
Oh.
Chelsea.
Is it us?
Chelsea.
Yeah. Chelsea.
You would have heard that a lot today, so I just thought I'd add it on again. But yeah, Chelsea finished 6th.
Wow, they were so good the second half as well. And all the
They
way
weren't
through
that
that,
great.
I'm thinking that they haven't played anybody over the age of 27 for the whole season. I mean,
Yeah, it's
if Chelsea
impressive.
had any sense, they would keep that squad together for 3 years and they wouldn't add to it and they wouldn't sell anybody from it.
Mm.
But that's not what's going to happen, is it? There's probably going to be 10 people coming in and 10 people going out
Yeah.
before pre-season. Right. So we've beaten Chelsea 2-0 in the Champions League qualification playoff. We think we've got an easy game at home against Everton on the last game, which will put us in the Champions League next
Didn't
year.
say easy.
First, but
I
before
think I
that,
did, to be honest.
we're going to win at Arsenal because beating Everton is going to give us runners up. Although what Arteta said after the Liverpool game this afternoon was, of course, if we can't be the best, we want to get best of the rest. Well done, Michael. When City win their last 2 games as well, Arsenal will become the only team to finish 4th in a 2-horse race. Well done. I'm going to leave it on that. I'm quite pleased with that. You can probably tell. Thank you very much indeed, Michael and Nicola, for joining me to discuss this. I was going to say glorious afternoon. It's a glorious result. There was some glorious weather. It was kind of a nervy win. But hey, when it ends in a win, everything is all good in the garden.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.